What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and goes back at it again. We got another superstar from the sport of mixed martial arts. It's heavyweight Tyrell Fortune, who's going to be fighting Rakim Cleveland at Bellator 277. It takes place on April 15th out in San Jose. That's the home turf for Bellator out there. It's one of their big tentpole shows. They got a couple title fights. It's a deep card. Welcome back, Tyrell. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to be in the show. Happy to be a part of this event.
It is a huge event. You know, there's a lot that's going to be settled. There's a big rematch with McKee and Pitbull, and then we got the finality to the Grand Prix. But obviously, every individual fighter, it's their own Super Bowl. For you, this one's a little different. We've talked to you on a couple occasions. You know, with the 11-2 record, you're usually coming off a win. This time, you had a setback. How are you feeling from the after the setback? I know you come from the world of wrestling where, those things happen, but you can brush them off maybe a day or two later. In MMA, they have to fester, within you. Were you able to shake it off pretty easy?
There was different things that I had to shake off and learn from this fight. Where'd you guys go? You guys still there?
Yeah. We're here.
Oh, and so for me, like the biggest thing that I think I learned from this fight was to slow down, because of just how the fight was going. I was so anxious to try to knock him out that I was so only focused on trying to hit him in his head, and I wasn't setting up any shots. I don't think I threw any leg kicks or body kicks, or I think I threw 2 head kicks, but I just wasn't mixing it up at all. I absolutely will not fight with any form of injury anymore. With this fight, a lot of people don't know I didn't say anything, but I had a back injury going into it. It felt like it was getting better, but as I was fighting, I was just locked up tight, and that's why I couldn't wrestle back in those positions. So it was kind of, for me, it was he was able to get in certain positions to where it was like, for me to advance, I need to go backwards as far as position, and meaning like I need to go to my back and push on the knee and scoot and shrimp out. But I was afraid. I wasn't prepared to think that. I didn't feel strong enough that my body and back could hold up with his pressure trying to shrimp and scoot out and everything with all that weight on top of me. So I was like, I have to kind of stall here, and if he makes a way to move around in front of me or behind me, I can make an attempt to get up. But it was a difficult situation to fight in, just because I was like, okay, look, I'm not going to let you really get any position, but once I stand up, I'm just going to go try to knock you out as much as I can, fast as I can.
Are you healthy now from that injury?
Yes, I am healthy now from that injury.
Okay. One thing that I was thinking about with just this previous weekend, another heavyweight performed, Curtis Blades, and he seems to have gotten dismissed in the UFC because he's 0-2 against the current champ, which is Francis Ngannou, but he's only 31, same age as you. And in heavyweight, that's still young. Like, there's still a lot of time to get better and hit that peak. So I wanted to ask you, like, do you feel the same way? Like, you want to be ready when it's time to face either Bader or Congo or whoever's there at the top, I suppose. When it's time. So all these fights, all these experiences you're accumulating, I'm sure you're banking them, but do you feel you're ready now, or do you still feel like you a little bit more seasoning, and then when it's time, you can go for that gold?
The thing with this sport is that you think you know something and you think you've learned something, but until you've applied it 1,000 times, you can't really feel comfortable with it. Because, like, if you asked me before any fight, I felt ready. I felt good, ready to go. I mean, for me, I think it's a little different too, because the person who helped me prepare the most at the beginning of my career was Bader. My first 6 fight camps was all with him. So, of course, with fighting him, there's a more level of like being comfortable because I've been there with him. We've done all these positions. We wrestled, we grappled, we've sparred, we've done all these things. So it's nothing unfamiliar with me with him. I think it changes a lot of the environment when you're actually in the fight, opposed to training. In training, I never spaz out like I did in my fight. But that's because it's also not the pressure and the anxiety of competing and winning and being in the cage with the fans and everything like that. And you add those stressors and that anxiety. Now I'm throwing all my shit at him and just trying to knock him out, not really focus. So I think I think for me personally, I think I'm ready to fight anybody at any time. it's not really like a thing I'm trying to learn or stuff. I think I have the skills and the ability. Now it's so much application, learning when to do stuff, how to do it, setting it up, being able to read his body movements and what he's giving me and setting those things up with that. That I think as you need the experience and the time to apply those things. And that's where I feel like in my last fight I was off a little bit. Linton didn't beat me up. He beat me in the competition. If that and that's how I feel about my last fight. If that fights were truly assessed by damage, who beat up who, I think I win that fight. But because it's a competition and he's can able to stop me, hold me down, make me look as if I wasn't able to fight. Because when we're on our feet, I was the only one going forward. It looked like I was the one to fight and him trying to stop me from fighting. So it's hard to really assess those things and give you a clear answer on that.
You started when you were 25, about 6 years ago, as a professional fighter. You're now 31. How does the fight go between 31-year-old Tyrell Fortune and 25-year-old Tyrell Fortune? How much better are you now? I mean, usually they tell us, "Oh, I'm better now. I'd kick my own ass from 6 years ago." But where have you gained advantages?
The knowledge. I think the knowledge so much and knowing when and where to apply things and knowing on just like certain techniques that aren't really successful that you can't use so much. Like I think for me a lot of the time too, like at the beginning I just had Bader, so I was just learning a lot. There wasn't so much me like figuring out what I was good at to put in. It was just like just do it and see what works, kind of like a guess and check type of thing. Now it's kind of more like, okay, these are the skills I've developed and this is what I'm good at. Now, how do I apply these things to the things that he's not good at? So I just think the knowledge of it has gotten a lot. My knowledge has grown in the sport and experience. So, I mean, I think, yeah, the now Tyrell beats the new Tyrell just because the new Tyrell was just a young kid, didn't know what he was really doing.
So it's funny that we were on this topic because that's something that I wanted to talk to you about. The one thing that impresses me the most about your game is your explosion, but not so much what it really is when you choose to do it. You get to these certain positions, and when you're in them, it's like a freight train just coming at you. But you're very sharp in doing that. I wanted to ask you where did that come from? And am I reading that right or what? But it just seems like when you get in certain positions, you let it out, man, and it's really tough to contend with.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of my like cards, in my hand, that one of the skills that I possess is that being able to explode in those positions. So for me, I just try to use that, and it's kind of like I'm lulling you to sleep. I try to want to get you to play with me and engage and things, so then I can explode and create those openings. But I think it really comes from wrestling. Wrestling so much for me was, all right, move my feet, get them to move around, start moving, and then get them to make a mistake, and then I have to explode through them. So it was always trying to look for an open, force an opening, make an opening, tap him, get him to reach, and as soon as he reached, throw everything at him. So I think that just transitions from wrestling.
George was mentioning, when you first started in the sport, we remember when you came on, we remember hearing your name and a lot of people telling us about you. Do you remember the exact moment where there was a moment in the gym or in a fight where you now felt comfortable as a mixed martial artist? You felt like, I can call myself a mixed martial artist here. I've learned everything I need to learn, and now I just need to get better at it.
Oh, I can't say I've learned everything I need to learn. I think I got to stay in the mindset of a beginner and always be ready to learn, because there's always something you can learn, especially in this sport. There's so many aspects and sides of the game. But I would say there's a moment now where I feel comfortable, and I think every fight I get even more and more comfortable. For instance, my last fight was the first time that I was like, you know what, I don't give a fuck if I get knocked out or hurt. And until I got poked in the eye and I couldn't see, I was ready to just throw. Especially in that third round, I was like, I'm just gonna slide in and whatever happens, happens. And it was the first time I felt comfortable doing that. So that's why I say you just stay in the mindset of a beginner and be ready to learn and adapt in any situation, because you don't know what can happen in a fight. Anything can happen.
A lot of people have different answers to this, but I'm curious in relation to your career, when COVID hit really strong and everything was shut down and it was hard to get training partners and fights and all that. Do you feel like that helped you, or did it slow you down because you did have some time to kind of sit back and learn new things and all that? But at the point in your career, how did it affect you?
Mentally it was a great thing as far as like being able to sit back, analyze, and learn a lot more because we didn't have anything scheduled. But physically it hindered me a lot because I wasn't able to spar like I needed to. I wasn't able to get the drilling in like I needed to. So not having the partners and stuff accessible there because of COVID made it annoying. But even at that time, I still kept a good amount of training and stuff. And for me, I have keys to my gym. So, I was going there still twice a day or once a day with my coach or by myself. So that also made it a lot easier for me with dealing with that problem. But I think it was just the loss of not being able to have a person there to work on the application. It slows you down.
Do you think about the title often, wearing gold, or do you just take it fight by fight?
I think I take it fight by fight now. Before a few fights ago, I was so caught up. Before I lost to Tim, I was so caught up on being the champ and just worried about that. And that's all I could think. That's why I went into that fight with getting over COVID on a Tuesday. And I'm like, fuck COVID. I'm gonna be fine. And my coaches, even, every time he's been begging me, like, hey, don't fight. Like, don't fight. Every time I've lost, Trevor has advised me not to take that fight. And every time I tell him to shut up, I lose. So it was one of those, I think for me is just listening and learning. Cause if I put my mind so far of something that's a goal that's so far in front of me, I tend to lose sight of what's near or what's right here in front of me. So now I just focus on the opponent and what I have to do to win the fight. And that will take care of everything else. Nothing else. If you're not winning fights, it doesn't matter. You can't do shit. You have no voice. You have no stage to speak or say anything. And you're probably worried about losing your job. You win fights, it take care of everything. You can say what you want, call out who you want, fight who you want next. You making more money. The company likes you, promoting you more. So I think that for me, it's just don't worry about anything else but winning the fight and the opponent you have in front of you.
Well, I like that in 2022, things are moving now. We had the title fight about a month ago or so, and they
Yes.
already outlined what's happening in France in May with Czech and Bader, and now we have some key fights that are taking place along the way. So, end of 2022, early 2023, it could be your time. And like you said, rack up the wins and just be ready and healthy. But now, like I said, the division's moving forward, so I look forward to some big fights between you big dudes over there.
Yeah, I hope we start a Grand Prix again. That would be dope if we could get another heavyweight Grand Prix. I think the fans will really enjoy that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're getting through all the divisions, but I'm sure they'll circle back. So, yeah, that'd be a great idea. Scott Coker's always loved working with the heavyweights. One of his first Grand Prix was the Strikeforce one about 10, 20, 12 years ago. And so I'm sure he'd love to revisit it. Tyrell, I want to thank you for the time today. I'm glad we were able to connect. Good luck with the rest of your camp for Rakim Cleveland on the 15th of April. We'll definitely be watching on Showtime. Thanks again, and we'll hope to talk to you soon.